G'day guys, Matt here from Not in the Manual. Today I just want to do a quick walk around video of the new Model Y that I picked up yesterday. So I've traded in my Model 3, 2021 Model 3 SR Plus with LFP for this 2023 Model Y rear wheel drive with the 60 kilowatt hour LFP battery. So yeah, today we're just going to have a walk around and have a look at this Model Y. I've had it for a day. I picked it up yesterday, so I just wanted to familiarize myself with a few things before I did this walk around. So yeah, we're just going to have a look around, look at what the differences are between this and the Model 3. And also, this car was built on the 12th of May, so I missed out on the extra parcel shelf and the pedestrian warning speaker that was fitted later in May, I think 23rd of May or something like that, if your car was built after that. I'm not fussed about that. I didn't care too much about that parcel shelf, little cargo blind cover thing. That's not a huge loss. Would have been nice, but you know, there are a lot of aftermarket options for cargo blinds for these cars, so that's not an issue. And not having a pedestrian warning speaker fitted at the factory is a bonus, I think, for me, because the normal horn is taken away from the car and that is used as the horn. Now, and the pedestrian warning speaker, I had it fitted to my Model 3 and I regretted having it fitted. The basics of it are great. It's a safety item, but Tesla just haven't executed it very well. Not being able to change that sound that it makes in reverse, or at least tone the volume down a little bit. I think it's just way too loud, and it's been waking my daughter up in the morning when I'm leaving for work, and I'm sure the neighbours don't appreciate it either. So I won't be rushing to fit that to this car. I just need to be a bit more vigilant, pay attention, because the car is pretty quiet. So I'm happy not to fit that again. And I would just watch that video I did on the pedestrian warning speaker, because that gives you an accurate representation of how loud that thing is. So guys, yeah, let's get started having a look at the walk around of the car. We'll start from the back of the car. We'll go around there now. All right, let's just have a bit of a walk around the car first. So I got the Midnight Silver. Now, I don't know whether you can see it too well on the camera here, if we get in the right light. You can see it's a metallic and it's really cool. There's flecks of blue and yeah, it's really cool. And I'm really happy with my choice of paint color. And I think in the US, this is going to become the standard color and it won't have an additional cost. It'll be the new white. So I don't know when that's going to start, but yeah, very happy with my choice of paint color. You can see here I got some novelty plates made up. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with them as well. I've got the black interior. I don't care much for the white interior. I think it creates too much of a reflection on the glass inside the car. Not for me. I know some people like that, but yeah, just not for me. So I also picked the 20-inch wheels. So they are 255s 40 R20s, and these are the Michelin Pilot Sport EV tyres. And have a look here, they're really a really aggressive tread pattern. I quite like them. That's one thing I noticed, this car is very quiet. And going for the 20-inch wheels, yes, I know my economy is going to suffer, but this car, even with these wheels on, is going to have more range than my previous Model 3, and that already had more than enough range than I really needed, even for long trips. So yeah, these are really nice wheels. I'm just glad not to be mucking around with the wheel covers anymore. I just wanted to have some nice wheels, and I've been pretty happy with this. My opinion is I think the 19-inch wheels just look too small for this car. I think the 20-inch wheels are just a much better fit. I will be doing another video. I've got a Magback product rim case, which I'm going to put around the edges of this wheel, which will protect them from curb rash on the gutters. I don't care how good a driver you are, you're going to do something like that at some point. This is very similar to the Pilot Sport 4 tyre on the Model 3. With the T1, but I mean, this has been designed for EVs from the ground up. You can see there are some extra sipes here around the edges, some extra sipes in the middle there for clearing water. There's some nice deep grooves there just to trap that water, or you know, give the water an escape route from the tread and clear that water away to give you traction in the wet. So I haven't driven this car in the wet yet, but I'm thinking these tyres are going to be a lot better than the hand-cooked tyres that come on the 19-inch wheels. I've had a lot of people complain on the channel about the hand-cooked tyres, so I think this is definitely well worth the upgrade. Yeah, I know it takes you over the threshold for the EV rebate here in New South Wales, but look, I'm not fussed. I wanted the better wheels. That all changed while I had the car on order, and I wasn't going to delay my order anymore. Yeah, I decided to stick with these 20-inch wheels and these better tyres. So I'll overlay a video. We'll have a look at some of the suspension in here. Someone asked about that today, and I don't know. I'll video that. I don't know if that's changed from the previous Model Ys. I don't have a video of or a picture of the suspension setup in those, but it does look like it's a cast steel top arm on the suspension here, and then this part of the suspension here is aluminium, and it looks like the bottom linkages are aluminium as well. So, you know, if that's an improvement to how it used to be, that's great. But yeah, I'll overlay a video of that. While we're down here, we may as well have a look at the repeater cameras. So this car is still hardware 3, and I'm not too fussed about that. You can see the pillar camera here as well. That's hardware 3. It doesn't have the little red tinge on the lens there, the anti-glare coating. I'm not fussed. I think at the moment, autopilot is limited by software, not hardware. So I'm pretty happy with how clear the picture is on these cameras. So I didn't feel the need to worry too much about waiting for hardware 4. I can now have this car for a while. I think it's going to be a long time before we see hardware 4 here in Australia. And I don't know, I just didn't see it as a massive benefit. Maybe long-term resale value, but at the moment, I'm planning on keeping this car for a long time, so I wasn't too fussed about that. The first thing I checked when I walked up to the car was made sure that I wasn't robbed of these lights. So these are the adaptive headlights still. Nothing has changed there. It's still the same headlights as what was on my Model 3. So, you know, I know some cars were being delivered without the adaptive headlights there for a while, but I think that was just, there was shortages of parts. So yeah, you can see that it's got the adaptive headlight in there. So maybe one day, hopefully Tesla will, once they're not as focused on the full self-driving, they'll be able to get back on and give us some adaptive headlights that they keep advertising with the light shows and stuff. Another thing, this car does have ultrasonic sensors. So here in Australia, the cars coming out of the Shanghai factory have the ultrasonics, which is a good thing. That was another reason why I thought I would order now while the ultrasonics are still there. One thing I don't know is how long they are going to stay active for. So I did see a video where there was a car at a Smash Repairers, and they actually had the ultrasonics disconnected, and they were moving the car and distance was still being displayed on the screen. So I think there is probably some shadow software running in the background to just do some tests on these cars for potentially turning off the ultrasonic sensors, but hopefully they don't do that for a while. So yeah, I'm really impressed with, you know, I think you need to see the Model Y physically. When you're looking at it, you can see a bit of that purpley tinge to the paint. It's just so nice. I'm glad to be back in a grey car. Ground clearance wise, I'm so much happier to have. I used to scrape my battery in the Model 3. I used to scrape the front at the shopping centre, you know, on the concrete blocks at the back of car parks. And yeah, I'm just so glad to have a bit more ground clearance. Let's have a look here in the boot. So this boot space is enormous. This is another thing you really just need to see in person. Having this hatch open up is just great. I'll overlay a video here. I went for a mountain bike ride this morning. That's why I ended up fitting these little liners in here. I'll just take that out so we can see what it looks like without it. I'll leave those liners on the back of the seat. I've got some Velcroed liners on there, you can see there, because I had the seats folded down and I had my bike in the back here, and I have a pretty massive bike. It's a big 29-inch bike with a wheeled bike with big suspension on it, and it fit in here. I had to take the wheel off, but I think that was just me being a bit precious, not wanting to scrape the wheel on the roof or anything there, but I could have put it in without taking the wheel off. So this is a bucket load of room, and this is what I like about having the SUV. I used to just run my bike in the back here. I don't then have to have the bike up on roof racks on the roof. I don't have to worry about having it on a tow bar here unless I've got rear passengers. So most of the time I just love throwing my bike in the back of the car, going off. You don't need to worry about aerodynamics. You don't need to worry about driving into your garage without taking the bike off the roof. and it's just much easier. Something I discovered today, I was bringing my old boot liner from the Model 3 into work to give to someone else, and I sat it in the back of my Y, and I got quite a shock because it looks like the back of the Y, well, at least the footprint of the rear area here is very similar to the Model 3. So the Model 3 actually has quite a deep trunk on it. What you're getting with the Model Y though is a lot more storage in the sub-trunk, a lot more storage at the edges, and then of course you're not restricted by that parcel shelf height-wise, you're restricted by the boot level here. So you can actually fit a lot more luggage in here, and it's much easier getting it in and out of the hatchback style rear. So yeah, I didn't get the parcel shelf here. I'm not fussed, you can get the aftermarket cargo blinds that go over here, but for the moment I don't mind because this roof is so tilted here, it doesn't really matter that that's uncovered. We've got the privacy glass, you can't really see in that well. If you've got something you want to hide, you can put it down in this massive storage area here. Look how deep that is. So I threw my bike helmet in there this morning, my backpack, shoes, everything, no problem. You've got massive storage compartments down here. You can see they're huge, they're so deep. And yeah, this is why I changed to the Model Y. And this is why SUVs are so popular. So we've got some extra little storage here as well, which I may just put some charging cables in, and everything is designed to be able to be held open, which is quite good. The Model 3 used to be a pain in the butt trying to hold the sub-trunk lid open. It used to just fall back down all the time. So the Model Y, they're really thinking about this storage space. I mean, I think you could almost fit a spare tyre in there, it's so huge. Or at least one of those space-saving ones. Yeah, this is pretty cool. And once again, this video isn't going to do it justice. That's all nice and tight there because of those covers I've got over the rear seats. So we have electronic fold down of those seats there. You just pull the switches here and they fold forward. Okay, so yeah, really hard to do that space justice, but I can even climb in here. Okay, if I put my head against the driver's seat, turn around, I'm 6'2", and my foot is just going just to the end, you can see there. So there is bucket loads of space in this car. Looking forward to camping in the back here with a mattress. That's going to be a lot more comfortable than the camping trip I just did in the Model 3. So we'll go through now and have a look at the back seats. Oh, before we go, now I have a 12-volt socket in the back of the car. Pretty cool. So I have a portable fridge that I can run in the back here. Okay, looking into the rear space here, this is one of the main reasons why I changed to the Model Y as well. The Model 3, I've got 3 teenage kids, and the Model 3 was just such a tight squeeze for them. We went for a drive last night and they're much happier. It's really just to do with the seat base here and the back being a flat back, and the base here being flat as well allows the outer passengers to sit as far as they can over this way comfortably and give that middle person a lot more space. Good thing about the Model Y too is if you pull this lever here, you can adjust where that seat sits, and you've got this first initial setting, which is a bit more upright, and then you've got the second setting there, and you can see how much more reclined that is. Headrests are also adjustable here, which you don't get in the Model 3. Middle headrest is adjustable as well. We've got a good sized drink holder here if you've only got 2 passengers in the rear. And yeah, just bucket loads more leg room, so you can actually squeeze your feet underneath the seat in front. You'll see there, I've already hooked up Scan My Tesla and the sexy buttons from Enhance. I just can't drive without that. I just love having all that data on display. Now you can see here there is just a ton more leg room for that center passenger as well. And I'll jump in here in a second, but I just want to measure the seat because I don't have another Model Y to compare to, but you can see here if I measure to the back of that seat there, what have we got? You can see the measurement here. we have 43.5 centimeters, or what have we got? You guys can read the imperial. It's 1 foot 17.5 inches, I think, roughly. So you guys can tell me if that differs from the earlier models, Model Y, and apparently they were going to make that a bit longer just to support your legs and make it a bit more comfortable. Apparently these seats had a bit of a redesign, so you can have a look here and tell me if it differs from yours. I'm not sure, I don't have one to compare to. So the doors, I'm not sure what's different there. We've got some carpet in here, apparently that was all plastic before, and down underneath the rubber section under here we have the emergency door release. So that plastic piece pops out and then you pull on that cable and that will release the door as a manual door release if there is ever a power loss with the vehicle. And in the front we have the emergency release there, which I'll have a look at. But yeah, really nicely finished, really well put together, nice and solid. We've got the speaker there. What else? Nothing else has changed here. I might just jump in and give you an idea of what it's like. So that seat is set up for me. I'm 6'2", as I mentioned before. I can sit here very comfortably. Model 3, my knees were just like this, barely enough space. And when even my teenage daughters, I had to move my seat forward to accommodate them. But yeah, just a ton of space. Just being able to have your feet underneath that front seat and have all that space there is great. Even this middle passenger gets some good leg room as well. Not quite as much as the side passengers, but yeah, it's still a lot more space than what's in the Model 3. So this is one of the main reasons I changed. So this glass roof is pretty cool. The lights are now here because you don't have the big center beam across here as well. What they've done is just shifted that center beam back to here, and that's where your rear hatch pivots. So you can see you don't have much of a view out of here. I'll show you from the driver's seat. Visibility out the back of this car is not that great. You can also see that they have carpeted the back of the hatch there. I don't know if that was on previous models. There is a lot more soft sort of carpeting around the panels. So we saw the inside the doors, and we'll see inside the front doors as well. And the other thing I didn't show you was inside the wheel arches. There is some extra soundproofing by the looks of it there. It looks like that's all nice. It's a much thicker or a different material just to get rid of that tyre noise coming into the cabin. So not having a cover on here, you do get some noise from the rear motor, but I don't mind that. I really actually like hearing that rear motor work. I love hearing the electronics buzzing away. That's just something I like. You know, you don't have much noise coming from this car, but for me, I just love hearing those electronics work. I love hearing those transistors buzz away. Okay, something I forgot to show you earlier was the frunk. So the frunk here is just gigantic. Much more of a usable space than in the Model 3. So my Model 3 was the LFP with heat pump, and the heat pump ended up eating into the frunk space. So I think the earlier Model 3s actually had a decent frunk in them, but when they went to that heat pump system, that heat pump system actually took up a bit more space here. So this is usable. I will definitely be doing a video on fitting a power frunk to this when I get a chance. I'll order one of those. I'm thinking of fitting the hand show one, but if anyone has got some other suggestions as to what power frunk might be better than the hand show one, but I think that looks like it's probably the best quality. So yeah, this frunk is just gigantic. It's much more usable for groceries, shopping, smelly takeaway. Yeah, I'm really going to be using this frunk a lot more. Underneath here, we've still got the windscreen washer fluid. The windscreen wipers here, I now have heated windscreen wipers because I need that here in Sydney. I've also got a big HEPA filter under here now with the Model Y. I didn't have that with the Model 3. The Model 3 only has the cabin air filters in underneath where your wireless charging ports are. But this Model Y has those two filters in that point as well. Plus it just also has this big HEPA filter under here. When I do the power frunk install, we'll have a look at the HEPA filter and I'll take that out and we'll just have a quick look at that point. Okay, my 2 cents worth for closing the frunk. You can do it one-handed. Now, they normally say to do it one hand either side here, but this section here is actually really strong, and if you just push your hand down on the edge there, that's how I've done it the whole time I had the Model 3, and I've never dented it once. So that area there is quite strong. These areas here, you can see, not so strong. So don't go pushing down up here. Always keep it around this area, just near the Tesla symbol. Anywhere around the Tesla symbol there is pretty sturdy. But I try and keep just to the edge here, and you push it down with one hand, you can get it shut, no problem. You're not going to cause any damage there. One thing that's really stood out for me going straight from the Model 3 to this car is just how big these doors are. So open and closing just sounds a lot more solid because the doors themselves must be a bit heavier, but that is solid. That's almost as good as my Volkswagen. That was a big thing with Volkswagens, the quality of the door closing. That is pretty good. It doesn't sound as tinny as the Model 3 did. So that sounds like, yeah, there's definitely a lot more weight to it. Or it could just be that Tesla have paid more attention to try and dampening the sound. So we've got the carpet in here as well. I don't know, the stitching looks a little bit different to me, but I don't know what's changed there. This all sort of feels the same. It's all just a bit bigger on the Model Y. So we've got the timber here. I don't mind the timber at all. I think it breaks up the grey. You've heard my opinion on that before. I think it really does a good job of breaking up the grey. Seats are the same as the Model 3. They're pretty comfortable. I mean, the fake leather gets a bit hot, but I mean, I used to get hot on the normal leather seats as well. But yeah, nothing else has really changed. Accelerator, brake pedal, this area is the same. You still get the same crappy floor mats with the car, so I'll be fixing that up. All nice carpeted here. I guess that all just helps with the cabin noise, any sound. I'll be putting the sports pedals on here as well. The covers, I've got some from Halo Black, and I've got a few accessories from those guys. I'll do a separate video on that. Yeah, all the same controls as the Model 3. You can see here you just get raised up. So the floor is really low, but the seats are raised up, and the driving position in this car is so much better. I've got a lot better vision around me than I had in the Model 3. You don't feel like you're just sitting down on the ground. I never got used to that in the sedan. Steering wheel's the same. I just, you know, these buttons on the steering wheel, I'm going to come and sit into the car in a second and I can run through some of that. But yeah, the steering wheel just feels a little bit different. I think it's just the way the stitching is done here. It's a bit tidier. And you know, these buttons, the scroll buttons actually are a lot easier to use. It's more the clicking sideways. Feels much easier to use than my Model 3 did. I don't know if anything has changed there, but it's just a lot easier to do. I've already fitted the sexy buttons. You saw I had the adapter at the back there, and I've got that splitter adapter that splits the OBD port into 2. And I am running the sexy buttons dashboard here as well. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention was this car has the 3D7 rear motor, and that is the same as what's in the Model 3 rear-wheel drive as well. They both use the same power unit, but it is a lower power and torque than what I had in my Model 3 SR Plus, the 2021 model. It had the 3D6 motor in the rear, and that was the same motor that is used in the Performance Model 3. So that is 220 kilowatt rating at 5,000 RPM and 440 Newton meters of torque. This motor, the 3D7, has 190 kilowatts. Well, that's the rating of the motor, 190 kilowatts at 5,400 RPM and 340 Newton meters of torque. Now, in the app here in Scan My Tesla and this Sexy Buttons dashboard, I've been able to see the peak kilowatts at roughly 230 kilowatts. So there's still a good amount of power. It would just be nice if they had have used that 3D6 motor in the Model Y and just give that little bit of extra torque for the heavier car. But you know, this motor is good enough, and the small amount of driving I've done in this car so far, I'm pretty happy with its performance. Yeah, look, if you wanted performance, get the long range or the performance version of the Model Y. So this really feels like my old Model 3 set to chill mode. Yeah, so I'm still using my sexy buttons. It was one of the first things I had to fit to this car, so I've got it so that you can turn regen braking off. my wife and kids get a little bit car sick with the regen braking, so being able to turn that off makes it a much more comfortable ride for them. And I've got my battery preheat button if I'm fast charging at a non-Tesla supercharger, or if you just want to heat the battery up on a really cold morning for to get, you know, full regen. And then this button I just chop and change. I can't even remember what I've got that set to at the moment. Yeah, I think I had it set to open up the passenger door, but yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, so I had to have that, and I had to have a dashboard here. I really need to see what's going on as far as battery temps. One thing I need to do a bit further investigating on is I can see that there is an energy buffer of 6.8 kilowatt hours. So I'm going to need to go in to scan my Tesla, and I'll be doing that as a different video. We're going to look at some of the battery stats to set a baseline for this car. So this is the 60 kilowatt hour LFP, and as far as I know, it's the CATL with the prismatic cells. That's all I know so far. We'll do the scan my Tesla video separate. Yeah, and it's the same smaller steering wheel. I really love the Tesla steering wheel. Nothing has changed with the gear stalks. Nothing has changed with this whole console. It's exactly the same as the Model 3. You can see here that is all the same. I've got some tray accessories to go in here. Oh, and I also have the sexy buttons here for the glove box. You can see there, that's just much easier for me or the passengers to open the glove box. Just remember that that bypasses any PIN code you might have set on the glove box, because it's bypassing the infotainment system and inputting directly into the CAN bus system. It bypasses any PIN codes you've got set with that system there. So that's something to be careful of. Don't keep anything too valuable in your glove box. Other things, infotainment, nothing's really different there. I think I get an extra game in arcade. We get the Vampire game now because I've got the Ryzen chip, and that's what I had the Intel Atom chip before. So that's all that's really changed here. I don't think I get zoom as well. I'm not really going to use zoom. And the other thing we can see here, we can see the wiper heater. So to heat the wiper blades, that's, you know, heated wipers. So if you live somewhere really cold, that's a good feature. This car comes with heated steering wheel and rear heated seats as standard. On my Model 3, I had to buy that as an extra when I got it. So that's all included in this car. The other thing that's included in this car is the premium audio system with the external amplifier. You can see here that lithium iron phosphate battery, AMD Ryzen, low voltage battery type, lithium ion. That's the other thing, this car doesn't have the lead acid battery anymore, so that's good. That should be a lifetime battery for the car, for the low voltage system, and that is a 16 volt instead of the 12 volt battery in the old car, the lead acid. So we have a heat pump, audio system premium. So that is, yeah, it does have the external amplifier and subwoofer. In audio settings, you can see that there's sub setting there. So I'm going to do a separate video comparing this sound system to the Model 3. So I've just noticed the infotainment in this car. I mean, here there's just no delay. It's just really, really snappy and responsive. So even loading things like Netflix, so in theater, loading all these things, they just load so quickly. So you can go here, Disney Plus. I know a lot of that does revolve around what sort of cell signal you have, and it's going to prove me wrong here. But that is so much quicker than my Model 3. Even though that did take a little bit longer, the Model 3 used to just sit there forever loading that. And once you're in here, that is just so snappy compared to the Model 3. Ah, Ahsoka, I'm waiting for that to come out. That comes out in a few days' time. But yeah, look, this, I don't know what else to go through here. It's all pretty much the same. I'm going to do a separate video of drive experience. Okay, you can also see that at night time when the cabin is dark, the infrared lights come on, and you can see me there through the camera, and that's designed to highlight your face when you're driving at night, just to make sure you're paying attention when autopilot is on. And another thing I wanted to point out is I have the ambient lighting. So even the base Model Y has the ambient cabin lighting, and that includes a light here in the side door pocket. So yeah, for those of you who don't know, you can actually now look through all the external cameras of the car. We look out the front as well. Yeah, so anyway, that was in my other software update video. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I now have Bioweapon Defense Mode. When you turn Bioweapon Defense Mode on, you then get, you can hear the fan ramp up. What's happening with Bioweapon Defense Mode, I'll just turn that off so I can talk, is it draws air, fresh air in from outside through the big HEPA filter under the frunk that you can see there, and creates a positive pressure within the cabin to make sure that any sort of smoke or dust or whatever from outside can't get into the cabin. And that would be quite useful if you were driving around and there was heavy pollution or heavy smoke from a fire somewhere, or just a really dusty, windy day. You could use that, and that will really just make sure that none of that gets into the cabin. So you still do have your recirculate button here, and that works independently of that. That's about recirculating the cabin air or allowing fresh air to come in. So both methods actually draw the air through the HEPA filter. It's just the Bioweapon Defense Mode creates that positive pressure inside the cabin to keep those pollutants out. You can see here I've just got so much more space. I actually had to move the seat forward. When I first got this car, I jumped in and it had my cloud profile already loaded. The seat was the mirrors were all adjusted, the steering wheel, I felt really comfortable. I just had to move my driver's seat a little bit further forward. Look at those side mirrors. So they're so much taller than the Model 3, so not wider. But when you're reversing, you just have a much better view in those mirrors. You know, I know you have the reversing cameras here for reverse, but yeah, you can see they did the auto tilt. When the Model 3 did the auto tilt down, it was really, really difficult to see. This one now, I've just have a much higher vision there now with those mirrors. That's good. But the bad part, look at that rear view. Not that great. A really small slit to see through. But then the visibility out of the Model 3 wasn't that great either. So I found this is good enough to see cars behind you. And you know, I think really the Model 3 or this, it would be very hard to see a kid walking behind the car. That's where you rely on this when you're reversing. When I'm reversing, I sort of have a quick glance here, then I'll look across at that mirror, then I'll look across at this mirror, and then back, and then here. You've got to be really vigilant when you have a silent car. So guys, don't know what else to add here with this video. I really hope that you've seen something here if you're looking at buying a Model Y. If you don't need the extra storage space, maybe hold off until they do a refresh on the Model Y eventually. No one knows when that's going to happen. And I think the refresh, other than hardware 4, is probably mostly going to be to save Tesla money in production. So the structural battery packs, and things like that, there's really not a huge benefit for the consumer unless it's the 4680 battery going in. So you're going to get a different battery chemistry with a structural battery pack. For the LFP batteries, we would just be getting the BYD Blade battery, and they did produce some cars out of the German Gigafactory there. That came to a halt because they didn't have approvals for the different motors in that car. But the BYD Blade battery is a good battery, and I think it having more surface area of the cells exposed for heating and cooling, they're going to heat and be able to be cooled a lot faster, which will make them charge quicker. But is it really enough to worry about? Probably not. I would much rather have the 60 kilowatt hour CATL battery with the prismatic cells. I've been really happy with the heating and cooling of that battery. This car preconditions the battery, does such a good job at preconditioning the battery and keeping the battery cool during charging that I just don't know how much of a difference that Blade battery would make. And it's going to be the same chemistry as this battery, so it's not like it's a new improved chemistry. So it's going to be exciting times the next coming years, because we're going to see so much of an improvement in battery development. We're going to see improvements with battery recycling. We really haven't seen the full extent of the LFP batteries. to become lifetime batteries in the cars. So we really haven't seen that proven over really long time frames in electric vehicles anyway. So guys, we might just leave it there. I'm super happy. Yeah, been really happy. No regrets with this purchase whatsoever. So guys, I really appreciate you watching this video. It's another long one again. Hopefully I've covered everything I needed to. Once again, if you've got any questions, please comment. And you know I'm more than happy to answer any questions you've got. So guys, thanks for watching, and I will catch you next video.